well, just came back from a shoot. I know Americans love this military stuff. Just had a shoot with my brother's company. Does a whole bunch of military gear, tactical gear sort of stuff. Anyway, this video is about the A5. As you may have heard a few of those rumors around at this point in time. This is actually an exciting time because the A5 is meant to be a sub $1,000 full frame budget camera in the Sony range. Before we get into this video, the Sony A5 will be very similar to the A6400. This isn't the A5. No one's got the A5. Apparently it's A6400. Also, this is my cute little setup right now. I've got the A7 III right there. I've got this new Freewell monitor that I'm actually checking out at this point in time. I've got the Ninja Flame right there. Need to test that out. I've got iSteady Pro 3. Anyway, let's get into this video. So what's going on, my friends? It's Jason here. I hope you're all doing amazing wherever you may be in the world. Today we're going to be doing some serious talk, some talk about a camera that I don't personally understand. I mean, I have been thinking about it a lot and okay, I can kind of understand, but this is a budget full frame camera and it's really hard because if you are using this for video or photos, it's very similar to an APS-C camera when it comes down to the specs and the pricing. There are advantages, there are cons with any camera. There is no one perfect camera. You can see Casey from Camera Conspiracies always trying to find the perfect camera. There just isn't a perfect camera at this point in time. But there is a best camera for you, and it depends on what you actually shoot. But the main advantages you do get with full frame is low light capabilities, more control over depth of field, and potentially cropping in when it comes to stills for reframing. Now there isn't a crazy large difference, like I said, when it comes to full frame and APS-C cameras. And Sony have produced some pretty damn nice APS-C cameras in the past with specs that are really affordable, like the A6100, the A6600, and even my trusty A6400 right here. But let's talk about the rumored specs on the A5, then we'll talk about them as we go through them. Now here are some concept images of the so-called A5 or /A6. They don't actually know what it might be called at this point in time, but let's stick with A5 at this point in time anyway. But the concept is they're trying to cram a full frame sensor into a smaller APS-C size body, something similar to their A6000 range at the moment, you know, which has actually been done before, like the Sigma FP. Now that is pretty much a really nice, small, compact form factor with that full frame sensor. Now Sony Alpha rumors believe they have a solid source saying that it will actually have a large grip to accommodate larger Sony NPF-Z100 batteries, which I'd imagine would be like the A6600. Those batteries are freaking amazing in comparison to the A6400. Oh, these things you go through about 3 or 4 in one shoot. Kind of sucks, but hey, I've got 6, I think, or 7 of those batteries anyway, so you never sort of run out. It just gets a bit annoying when you're actually changing it. But they also said it will have USB-C charging, which is pretty much a definite. I mean, this A6400 has USB-C charging. No, it doesn't. The A64 doesn't. No, I got that wrong. But it also says there might be a 3.5mm audio jack and a headphone jack for monitoring, which is really cool. It's always good, especially if this is targeted more towards the vloggers. That is actually much needed because my A7 III does have a headphone jack. You can actually monitor your audio after you've recorded. I do external recording anyway on my Zoom H5 because you're able to get a lot closer when it comes to getting that audio into that speech bubble sort of area. Now it also says that it may have a single SD card slot. Now, I would guess this would be potentially true because the A7 III has a dual card slot, and if you are buying the A5, you might be a intermediate photographer or videographer, or it could actually be a backup full frame mirrorless camera. So one SD card is still perfectly fine for a lot of people. I know still some professionals only shoot one SD card. I personally haven't had an SD card fail. The only time I've actually had it completely fail is I've dropped it and the plastic casing came apart and I don't know how to fix it. It was meh, it's all right. That was my fault, but I know there have been a lot of people that have had faults with SD cards in the past, so I can't speak for that because I've never had it. But it may also have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which is pretty much standard in most new cameras now. I don't use Bluetooth, I don't think. I use the Wi-Fi or NFC. I touch my phone on the side if I really want to take a still off my camera straight right there and then, and edit it on Lightroom on my phone. But it all depends what you guys use it for anyway. But the thing is they really need to try and cut costs if they are trying to bring this camera to a sub $1,000 camera. Now the A6600 I think is about maybe $1,200. Don't quote me on that. I'll check it up. If I'm not right, the price is right here anyway. But it's a little bit cheaper than the A6600. I think the A6400 goes for maybe $850 to $900, so it's a little bit more expensive than that. So it is within that APS-C range. This may entice people from APS-C to jump ship over to full frame and start investing in full frame glass. Maybe that's Sony's trick, or maybe they're just introducing the A5, so it could be a backup camera to the A7 III or to the A7 IV, to the A9 II, whichever, the A7S III. It could be a backup camera to any of those full frame cameras. So it really can actually be useful. I still don't think it is a good idea. You may as well just jump straight to the A7 III. But let's get into some more of these features before we actually make any of these decisions. Now there are some wild rumors to say that it also has 5 frames per second stills, IBIS, pop-up EVF touchscreen. It's got 4K 30 at 10-bit color recording at 100 megabits per second. It's got apparently 4K 60 with a heavy crop, no audio, and only in SNQ mode. If you don't know what SNQ is, it's slow and quick mode. It's generally a very low megabits per second write speed, so it's not as good quality when it comes to the SNQ mode. Now, if they release this camera with 10 bits and only have a 100 megabits per second recording, now that is severely crippled when it comes to image quality. Now I know the EOS RP has 10-bit and it records 24 frames per second at 120 megabits per second. So it is a little bit more information recorded there, and 10-bit does work best than more than 100 megabits per second. I don't know why they would only just cap it at that. It does compress that a lot, so it's pretty high compression when it comes to that. There might be external recording, something a little bit higher in terms of bitrate. But 8-bit at this point in time in 4K does 100 megabits per second. So it is the same bit rate as 8-bit. So we shall soon find out. It could still be a really good camera when it comes to those bit rates. So this leads me to think, this camera could be more photography based, or even just a hybrid sort of shooter / content creator or vlogger. I mean, 5 frames per second definitely is not impressive at all, since you've got the APS-C line. These things do like 10 or 11 frames per second for stills. Like, they are freaking amazing when it comes to stills. Listen to this. Let's go high mid. I think that's the difference. Is that the difference? That's about 5 frames per second? I'd say that's about 5 frames per second as opposed to the high plus. Again, we'll rattle it off. There's a big difference. So if it does have 5 frames per second, it's probably not great for photographers, but it all depends if you're going to be shooting action or landscapes or portraits. You don't need really high frame rate anyway. But we're going well off track right now, but apparently it's heavily cropped at 4K 60. Now, that is perfectly fine. I've been saying this for a while because the processor would need a little bit more power to handle 4K 60 10-bit. 4K 60, if it's cropped, let's say APS-C crop at a 1.5 crop, that's still perfectly fine, especially if it is a 6K sensor like the A7 III, downsampled to 4K. APS-C crop is still perfectly fine. If anything, you can't even tell a difference when it comes to like if you're digitally cropping in or you're cropping in with the APS-C mode. I mean, this could still be perfectly fine at 4K 60. It really depends on that process. It really depends on if it's that single Bionz X or the Bionz XR that's actually in the A7S III. It really depends. The A6600 and the A9, and I think the A6400 have the exact same processor as the Bion X processor. In a smaller body though, full frame sensor, overheating is probably one of the biggest things that they really need to watch. I guess after this, I really just, I don't know, do I see this in the Sony lineup, having a budget full frame camera with less specs? You may as well invest in the A6600, or will you invest in the A7 III, you know, go up a little bit? Look, after saying all that, I can see this in the Sony Alpha lineup as a B cam to a lot of people. It's a difficult choice, and that's what I'm here for, is to help you guys make a choice. And you know, it's really difficult. It really depends on what you are shooting. So what do you guys think anyway? Like, comment below your thoughts on the A5. Is this a camera that's actually going to make you go into full frame if you're in APS-C at the moment? Do you already have full frame? And will you get this as a B cam? I still would choose the A6400 or the A6600 over a full frame B cam. Mainly because I like having a B cam that's APS-C, so when I throw my full frame glass onto APS-C, it's already got that crop, so I've got an extra angle, extra distance from those glass being full frame. So you're timesing obviously the glass by 1.5, the focal length. Really depends. It really depends on how you shoot, what you shoot, and you know what you actually need these for. But what do you guys think? Let me know. That's it from me. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you already haven't, and guys, I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's get it.
Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like I'm Bigfoot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking.